Welcome to another edition of Swim Easy Speed. My name is Tim Floyd. Today we're going to be looking at another video or analyzing another video from one of the pros that's staying in town, kind of training in the Woodlands area pre-Kona. And so this pro triathlete is Ruth Astle. Ruth is a fairly new pro. She had a really stellar age group career and decided to go pro and challenge herself a little bit more. And her coach actually is Will Clark, and Will has been a longtime friend of the team for a while now. So it's always great to have athletes that he's working with drop by and visit. So I'm just going to let the video play here. You guys can take a look at it, and we will go from there. Okay, so now we'll just rewind it, and we'll go back to the beginning. Okay, so yeah, Ruth is doing a lot of things really well, and the one thing I've noticed in the since she's been swimming with the team is I think she's one of the athletes that just needs a little bit more of a push in the swim. I think she's come into it, with a lot of triathletes do, particularly age group triathletes, where they think, it is what it is. I'm just going to focus on the bike and the run, and I'm never going to be a good swimmer. But, she really had some fairly, big drops in time while she's been here in some of the sets we've done. I think she's only been 2 or 3 practices, but even within the set, she was able to pick up a lot of time when she started to press herself a little bit more. And so I think that, that's one of those things where, it all kind of revolves around mindset and how you approach it. And I think, she still has a lot of room for improvement within her stroke and within how she's training. So it's, that's always exciting to see, especially with athletes that, do as well as she does on the bike and the run. And she does actually remind me of another UK triathlete, Kat Morrison. They're built quite similarly, and are kind of just well built, solid, powerful kind of athletes. And I think she could really use that to her advantage in the swim. So we'll just go through, and I'll show you a little bit more of what I mean. So here we go. This looks pretty good. I mean, as always, the endless pool is going to be a little bit deceptive in terms of what it's doing. It's putting her at a little bit of an angle. But again, as we've kind of mentioned many times before, that really just indicates that, maybe the core isn't as engaged as enough as it should be, or that the lower body isn't as connected to the core in that movement, that kind of neuromuscular movement as it should be, or kinetic chain. So, and that's one of those things where you can do that kind of 2 ways. You can get it in the weight room. You can get it through a lot of volume. So really 3 ways, a lot of volume, or you can get it through, using some gear that really forces kind of core engagement, but also just really focused on it and thinking about it a lot. So you can see, the right side, it's pretty good. I think she's a little underpowered on the left, but you'll see from kind of when we get to the overhead what I mean by that. But here, she's dropping the elbow there a little bit. So, press. She didn't really start pulling herself forward till right there. And again, so a lot of this is we're just pressing down on the water. So that's going to press the head and shoulders up, which is going to drop the hips and the feet. So, and then you're just wasting that ability to pull forward, where you could be pulling yourself forward sooner and keeping that momentum going. So the left side's a little bit better. There's still press, 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 press. Starts pulling herself there. So again, one of the things we'll need to work on is just, getting that elbow up, kind of the wrist down a little bit. And then just if she gets her body higher on the water in general, that'll clean up a lot of that too. So here you go. We can see, again, that gap right there. For her, it's probably 5 seconds, 100, just kind of by eyeballing it. If all that came up as well. But, she's doing a good job pointing her toes. That looks good. So there's not an ankle flexibility issue there. Keeping her feet relatively together. So here's kind of the first thing that we want to work on. Look, she's a very talented athlete. When I was working with her, she had a lot of really good proprioception. So if I asked her to do something, she was able to kind of change it pretty readily. And she's got that really good line right down the middle of her body. The one thing is you can see right here, we're throwing a little bit of momentum that way instead of just perfectly straightforward. So you're going to have to correct for that somewhere. So you can see it kind of corrects in the feet a little bit. So there they are coming way apart. You can see that right there, which is all just kind of drag that is going to slow you down, number one, but then also bring that back, exaggerate kind of how much that back end comes down. The right comes around a little bit, but she manages to kind of straighten it out right before there and drives it forward. So that looks pretty good. The hips are pretty good because she's using her core a lot to stabilize everything that's going on. The stuff that's happening with her feet is just, kind of that's beyond the ability of the core to manage it. So you can see here, that comes in like that. So you can see where the momentum's going right there. Now, here's where she does do a good job. So, we're typically looking 30, 40 degrees off the plane of the water. She's pretty close. And that looks good on the right. Let's see how the right looks. Here we go. Yeah, right on. So, recovery looks pretty good. The one thing I think she could probably work on that would really, really help her stroke would be, her tempo. So the time that it takes to, and I'll go back here. There we go. We'll go back to the overhead. So if you started the stopwatch, so we're going to do it on the right. So if you started the stopwatch right there and then stopped it right there, so effectively one complete stroke cycle. So for her, it looked like, I got a couple, put the watch on it a couple times, and it was about 1.6. And I think for her, just because of how she's built, she's really, really strong. That if she could get her tempo down to kind of, at least 1.3, probably preferably about 1.2, and built up to that, she'd really be optimizing her ability in the water. And, we've had kind of other guys from the UK. Harry Wiltshire is a perfect example of some of the really, really high tempo. He was about 1.2. And the women usually at Kona are usually anywhere from about 1.2 to about 1.5. Kind of in that range is what that chase group is. All right, so here we go underwater. So you can see it's a little wide on the right there. She's a little bit outside her body frame. She could get a little bit more leverage on the water. So we're looking at, here's that to that. Yeah, I mean, she's pretty far open. We'll clear that. And then here, I think we're going to be pretty open again. Yeah, I mean, we'd like to see that kind of more in the, 100 to So it'd be kind of more about like there probably, something like that, where she's pulling through. She'll just get a little bit more leverage on the water. So, but yeah, I mean, that looks pretty good. You don't see a lot of, you see her feet occasionally. You can see kind of the part of her torso, but no, that looks pretty good. And the one thing she does do really well is, I'll back it up, even when she's swimming. And again, this goes back to kind of just her natural kind of athletic ability. So we're going to go back here. You can see when she's swimming, she does a really good job of just keeping her head just really, really rock solid straight. There's not a lot of movement to it except when she's breathing. And that's exactly what you want. I mean, you want that head to be kind of like that North Star kind of guiding the stroke straight forward, besides the arms and the entry. So we'll go forward here and go over some of the work that we did. So the first thing we started out with was, that position 11 drill with the PVC pipe. And you could see this was the first one that we did. And she was struggling with it a little bit. And you remember, when you make, 100,000, 200,000, a million strokes doing it one way, that's what your brain and body know. So here we go. She, made some pretty good correction. And you can see how more of the stroke is driving straight forward, and it just looks a little bit more compact. So the second thing we did was we were trying to work on that high elbow catch, and at least setting her up for that high elbow catch. So we used the Aquavolo VB Air paddles. And they're just it's a mid-palm paddle that has, it's like a high density, like foam that the paddle's made out of, and they're very, very buoyant. And so you've got to press down against that buoyancy at the front of the stroke right there. And then the paddle, because of the shape and its mid-palm, it tends to help kind of roll your hand over into that high elbow catch a little bit sooner. So you can see she's getting on the water a lot quicker in terms of pulling herself forward. And that's the feeling that we want to get. So, when we're thinking about this, the brain and the nervous system are wired for feeling, for the body to execute a feeling, not so much a thought. So we can drive kind of movements by, hey, I have this conceptual idea of it. But really what we want to try to do is establish, hey, what does this feel like? So that you can go back to that feeling in practice over and over and over again. That's kind of the simplest, most effective way to do it. So you can see right here, and then we use the core link, which is a hollowed out pull buoy that you got to squeeze. So it helps to kind of engage your core a little bit more. So you can see, she's come up on the water quite a bit, and, she's pulling forward a lot quicker. So, here she is kind of at the finish. This is the last thing we did. Just try to put the whole thing together. And you can see there's even more connection in the core. Feet are sticking together better. And, we still got a little bit more work to do at the top of the stroke, but no, it looks significantly better. And, I have no doubt that she can make a lot of improvement in the swim and be really, really competitive in it. So, as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, share, comment, subscribe down below. And if anyone has any questions, I'm always happy to answer questions.